Welcome to On Camera and Online, which of course crossover because most stuff that's online that you will see will also come from a camera. Okay, but I want to broaden this out to cover a whole bunch of areas as much as I can. It's kind of a kitchen sink of what's going on right now in our industry. So ways that actors can get representation, we have the good old standard Independent Film Festival, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. And then we have the internet, we have social media, we have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all sorts of platforms which can be quite wonderful for people who didn't have a chance to get in the room. We're seeing that more and more. There's a democratization kind of who can get where, because anybody can get on camera and stick it out there and do what they want with it. I'm going to start with this Independent Film Festival because it's been around for a long time. Just as I said earlier, with the idea of an agent seeing you in something because they have somebody in it, that could be a way that you could get seen at an independent film festival. Independent film festivals, which are now streaming too. Very often people in them will have representation already, and there will be those that don't, depending on how how the movie was cast or the budget that they have. But if I'm an agent and I go to an independent film festival to see my client, to support him or her, to see what they are doing, I will see other people. And there's nothing to keep me from jotting down their names and looking them up on IMDb Pro when I get home and see if they're represented and touching base with them. Again, it's my idea of the best way to get an agent because it's them seeing you and saying, wait, I want to talk to that person, which, as I've said repeatedly, I believe to be the best way to get representation. Okay, so let me just give you an example. There's something here I'm thinking of that might be an analogy to what's going on in our business. For 20 years in New York, we have had something very wonderful called the Tribeca Film Festival. And it was what film festivals are, showing of hundreds of movies, short films, everything over a period of several days. And it is no longer called the Tribeca Film Festival. It is now called the Tribeca Festival. Notice something? The word film is gone. And there's a reason why the word film is gone, and that happened this year. It's because it's been expanded into many other things. You have audio stories, podcasts, immersive virtual reality, all kinds of things that I just am using that to show how much stuff there is out there and how many platforms there are and how many things there are for people to do and participate in. So that was once a very cohesive thing that just this year they said, look, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this, and we have all of these events. So I'm pointing out that you can get seen, as we know, people get seen on TikTok, people get seen on Instagram, people put their stuff there. The main thing I want to talk about here is content, that you have content that you can get to a representative or to anybody else who might want to see it. That's really the core here versus, all of the places that you can build up followings and where you can put stuff. Because you can't just put anything anywhere. I mean, there are copyright issues sometimes. So what I want to get at is that you have visual material for you to send to people. And in this climate, you would not send something to an agent without anything for them to look at. Like a website with no links, like with no show. I call it the show. Where's the show? Because when somebody sends me their website, the first thing I look at the picture and all that, then I go to the show. I click media. I want to see what you do. I want to see what you can do. I want to see how you do it. And I know a lot of people do that because that's what they want to see, and then they can go back and look over the resume and look over the about me, which can sometimes be a tad cringeworthy, but that's the discussion for another time. So you have to have content. It does not have to be a ton of stuff. Think quality versus quantity. I've seen people get representation with 2 30-second spots, and very often it was something somebody else wrote for them. I love it personally when it's shot in an environment, and sometimes at an angle where, the actor is talking to somebody that we don't see. We don't even know if anybody's there or not. But the environment is real. It might be 25, 30 seconds of something perhaps confrontational, explanatory, whatever. And it's like, okay, here's a taste of me. And then they have another one. But you have to have, as I call it, most people call it content, I always call it stuff. If you have music, if you're a singer, it could be 16 bars, could be 32 bars. And then from there, certain things may make their way onto TikTok or Instagram or wherever you put it. I know, like, for current media, I love TikTok and Instagram for the same reasons that I and the generation ahead of me loved the Ed Sullivan Show. I love it for stand-up comics because I think it's perfect for them. Why? Because a stand-up comic is a writer and a performer. And so all they need is that and an audience. And so it doesn't surprise me that trending right now on TikTok, stand-up comics will a lot of times put a clip of a heckler. Because what happens is they have their set, they have what they're going to do, and then somebody interrupts it and there's some drama. Now, I'm presuming authenticity here in the, in the heckling, but it makes for a perfect, what's going to happen, and how are they going to handle that heckler? And if they handle it perfectly, it's like a slam dunk. So I can see why they're like, okay, this is a real grabber for me to put on. So that's very popular. Same thing with singers in a way, not the heckling part, I hope. But singing is a standalone talent. Yes, you may have a piano and a band, but the nature of it is different from acting, where acting is harder in that for an actor to become successful, typically they need to be in the right project, they need the right ensemble, the right writing, the right director, there's a whole confluence of factors that are different from stand-up, which is why on a show like Ed Sullivan, you would see stand-up comedy and you would see singers, you'd see people who did stuff by themselves, unless they had a dog act or something, but I mean performers who perform material. So what we have is all of these different places where people can put stuff, which is all good. But again, I'm thinking about it mostly as you having at least a couple of things. Quality, how does it look? How does it sound? How are you performing? Because people expect to get a link or two if you're going to send them stuff. I'm going to tell you 3 little anecdotes here, okay? One of my students sent me his website, and it looked spectacular. And I got back to him, I said, there's something missing. And he said, what's that? I said, the show. He said, the show? I said, yeah. I said, where? There's no work here. I said, it looks great, but there's no work. I said, please don't send this to anybody, because they're going to it's very attractive. They're probably going to go looking for you doing stuff, and it's not there. He said, no, that's coming. This is a trial. I said, okay, good. And he did. He went out and he's a singer and an actor, and he sang in a nice club, well-dressed. He had an orchestra, beautifully shot, beautiful sound, and then in a couple of weeks, he had what he needed. But I did say this to him, and I would tell this little story now. I said, what would you do if in the next couple of weeks somebody needs to see something of you, singing, and you don't have it? That comes out in a casting breakdown. He said, I don't know. I said, well, I do. I said, because I happen to have seen on YouTube, I said, there is on there an episode, so to speak, of you singing Amazing Grace at a relative's funeral. Now, at first that might sound like, yikes, but no, you transcend where you are. I said, you look wonderful, you sound wonderful, it's just extraordinary. And I said, I don't know your relative, but I suspect that if you said to them in your head, I was able to use something that I did as a tribute to you to further my career, they'd probably be very happy. I said, the point is you're singing beautifully, and the rest doesn't matter. We lose the context of where it was done. So I said, if you ever want to keep that you can. If you don't want to, you can. You don't have to. I just said, in a pinch, please don't not send something into a singing audition because you don't have anything but that, because it's brilliant. Something else I want to point out here, because it's happening. This would not be everybody's cup of tea necessarily, but I am seeing increasingly an actor, when they put their stuff, the Actors Access, which is where you store your things, if you happen to have a website where you have your reel or your clips, I'm seeing increasingly an actor putting a knock it out of the park self-tape right on there. And the reason that they're doing it is they're saying, this is how I audition. And if it's a studio in their home, as more and more actors have, with a expansive blue wall painted behind them or gray wall, what they're saying to whoever looks at it is, I do things well. I do them right. The sound is right. The lighting is right. I've done everything. I just want you to see what you will be seeing more of than me getting jobs, because that's what everybody's going to be seeing. So it's a way of saying, I've got my act together. Take a look at this. I saw one recently from a young woman, and it was for the Handmaid's Tale. It was a self-tape that she did. It was stunning. I said, there's nothing to keep you from, she said, I came really close to that job. I said, I can see why. And I said, there's no reason for you not to put it on there because it looks great. And as I said, it shows that you have the technical abilities and you know what you're doing. And that's so, so important. So it is not unusual. I'm not saying it's everybody's cup of tea. I'm not saying everybody would agree with that. I just know that I'm seeing it, and I know that the industry is finding it acceptable increasingly. So you have to have material for people to see. And I think I've made that kind of clear now. Quality versus quantity. You don't have to inundate people with 40 links. One thing at a time, and make it your best, that you'll be sending perhaps in an email, which we're going to get to when I talk about correspondence and communication that you can't look at yet, and so that you build on that. So that's necessary, and that is something that you're going to have to put out there. So I know I'm not talking here about getting a following. That's an issue for another time. I'm just talking about you needing to have things that you can show to industry people, because if you don't have that in this day and age, well, what will happen is if you put your picture and your resume up on a casting website, you'll probably get called in for background work, and I understand that. You didn't give them a show. They have no sense of how you talk, what you're like in motion, or anything else. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say to you in this segment, which kind of ran across a gamut of different ways of on-camera internet content. Thank you.